This video is brought to you by Letsynthesize Academy, the #1 place for practice-oriented courses for serious music producers.
Yo, Larson here, welcome to the Neuro Dnb episode, and today I want to talk about Redpill, this French dude. His style is very unique. Analyzing his sound, we will learn how to create a really busy arrangement in drum and bass like this. So come with me, let's learn together, but if you are lazy, you can grab this project from my Patreon below with millions of other really cool stuff and click here for my academy where I can teach you how to create your own music from scratch, but right now let's jump into it. Yo, so Redpill is a new upcoming artist with a really filled up sound, so his arrangements are very busy and he uses lots of sounds, so this is exciting to dig deep and analyze what he does and what he does not do. So I took the Blast the Party track from him and this is how it sounds, just in short parts. Okay, so this is a track, I really love this one, and the cool part is that he mainly uses very simple basses. So if you have a look on the waveform, so the main bass, as you can see, looks like a simple square wave with noises and some filters probably. With some fillers, this is a really nice vocal effect. Okay, so the tricky part comes when he introduces new layers or new synths. So he has his some other stuff that comes in a little later. So I'm not sure if you can hear that, but there is a siren kind of sound, or something like that, below the really high screechy sound and above the bass. And the other thing that I hear is he uses lots of background noises, lots of background effects. So if you use a utility, right click on it to activate the mid side and crack up to the side, we can hear a lot of things. I also hear that in the second part, when he introduces the higher synths, he also tweaks the bass a little. So I don't know what he does with it. Maybe it's an extra layer, maybe it's some EQing, but he definitely changes it up a bit. So anyway, it contains lots of information, lots of little sounds that add together, and this is the hard part, to mix the track with all these sounds, with lots of harmonics, lots of distortion, lots of craziness, to find a place for every sound. So let me show you something. So the main bass takes up this place of the frequency spectrum. We have a sound that, as I can hear, is mainly on the higher part of the frequency spectrum, and this way the mids are a bit empty. So this is where we need to put the extra informations, the sirens, and maybe there are some percussion and extra effects, extra sounds in the mid. So our job here is to find the place in the frequency spectrum for every sound and try to be a little thoughtful on not to overlap each other too much. So this is what we need to model here. Let's start first with the drums, because these are really straightforward. So we have the kick, snare, ride, and here is this clang that is coming from operator, and I create this sound with millions of other from scratch in the Tyrant masterclass that you can use up, I bet, for drum and bass, for dubstep, whatever. This clang is very powerful. You can use this at millions of different places. Alright, I add this little compression to make the sound perceived louder. And basically this is the drums. It's pretty straightforward, as I told you. Okay, let's start with the bass, because as I told you, it is a square bass. So what I did is just use a square wave with the noise and with the low pass filter that creates the wobbleness based on LE41. Now this is a little weird because the LE4 runs free, so it is not synchronized to the DAW tempo, but this is what I saw in the original song too, so it is not really on the grid. But this is a cool part because, as you can see, I used macro 1 to add the pitch movement and also along with the LE4 speed, so this way we can create a really interesting sound what the original artist did. I also use a synchronization mode, warping mode, on the square, because if I deactivate it, the square sounds like a steady, sustaining sound, so it does not wobble that much. And that is because of the pitch variation that the sync warping mode creates. You can modulate the chords using LE41, but honestly the sync created a lot better result. Alright, and from this point, the only thing that you had to do is use a distortion, but I high-pass filtered it before the distortion to create a lot more mid and mid-high overtones. This is without the distortion, and it creates a lot more in the mid and mid-highs. So this is what we mixed back to the original sound. And after that, only some stereo informations and a little boost on the mid and the mid-highs to add more presence to the sound, basically. Now the cool part in this type of sound, because it is super simple, you can choose a different waveform for a different sound. Now the noise is too loud. Also, we can go with a spectral, like a trilobite or something. Let's use a band warping mode instead. We need a little more EQing because the mid-high noise is a little too much. Let's see what we just made. Now it's a little quieter, so probably we'll have to add a little more distortion or whatever. But as you can see, just using a different waveform and a little tweak on the effects just create a whole different result, so I love it. Alright, so when we got to the second part of the sound, when we introduced those extra layers, extra synths, we need to do something with the bass. So either we can crank up the gain on the mid boost, but it's not very pleasing to the ear, so let's pull it back. What we can do is add an extra layer. So as you can see, it was originally a square wave, but I killed the first two harmonics, so it won't collide with oscillator A. Yeah, so there's a lot you can do here. So add a little different color to the bass when we introduce the extra synths, and you know, when we raise the tension in the second half of the drop. We introduce this synth, this screechy synth, that is super simple. It's two sine waves modulating each other. So oscillator A is modulated by oscillator B, that is a simple sine with an extra harmonic. So it is the bin 32. Distorted with some stereo informations, an OCC and a reverb, and basically this is all. We are not using any modulation here. So this synth was on the higher part of the spectrum, the bass was the lower part of the spectrum, and we need to put something in the mid, and the mid weirdo synth is what I created for this purpose. So as you can see, the main harmonics are in the mid frequencies at around, well, 1K or something. We are just using this wavetable that almost sounds like a sine wave with a mirror warping mode, with a noise, a bandpass filter, and the stuttery effect is created by LE42 that just moves the level of oscillator A. But LE41 is the main tool that moves the bandpass filter, the level, and in the FX, the distortion filter cutoff. We have this EQ that creates basically the interest of the sound based on LE42. Every other effect creates a minimal information, a minimal differences to the sound. Now an extra oomph using the reverb filter and the equalizer. That creates basically the mid informations, because this sound should be really heavy on the mids. Alright, so we just built up the main blocks for this track. So we have the bass on the lower part of the spectrum, the screech, and something in the mids. But we need some fillers. This is my favorite filler here. This is the main bass and the layer. And the layer is super simple. I resampled the main bass. I cranked it up by 19 semitones, so 1.5 octaves. With some effects, obviously cutting the lows, the chorus and the delay. But the main bass has this resonator that creates a more musical sound on top of the main bass. I love this stuff, honestly. And the preset is not that complicated either. We had 2 Reese meshes with lots of filters and distortion. So the first is the notch filter. So you can see the warping modes with the sub. But the notch, it creates this nice little sweepy sound with the band reject filter that is actually very important. So it basically creates a huge cut in the mid and also adds some little drive to the sound. And after that, a distortion with some serial informations obviously before that. And again, I high pass filter the sound before distortion, creating more on the mids and the mid highs. And I mixed it back to the original sound with an OTT and an extra notch, some EQing with the reverb. So super simple stuff, but using the band reject filter with some distortion can create a very nice mid-empty aggressive sound. Alright, I modeled the vocal effect that we heard in the original track. So it's just a vocal cut saying something like, oh, I don't know, I crank this down with the octaves. And I play with the 5 position inside the granulator too. With some OTT and this auto pan to create a slight stuttery sound and a delay. And basically this is all. And we have another filler. And I love this filler because it gives a second of fresh air and it impacts again. And it is really simple to do again. This is a preset that you can grab from my Patreon. I posted it like several months ago or even a year ago. But basically the regular stuff, we have the diggy sweep wavetable modulated by a higher frequency sine wave with a band reject filter that I love, and you need to use that for neuro basses. With some chorus, distortion, we don't need the reverb. But the main point here is having this sound with lots of higher overtones, then you filter it using a bandpass filter and distort and compress to have a really fat and thick sound together. Okay, so these were the main building blocks, but I heard that Redpill uses lots of little glitch and effect and noise in the background, and all these are in the FX group. Okay, this riser had too much low rumble. We need to fix it. Okay, cool. So this main, like lasery, noisy, whatever FX loop is I just went crazy with the operator. So I use random stuff. All of them are sine wave except operator B. And I set the looping mode to sync 1/6. I think it's a 1/16. So different looping points. This creates some little chaos with the repeating blocks on the sound. 1/16 and 1/4 again. And the LFO2 creates the movement. So this is what makes the sound go from noise to a laser. Because if I deactivate it, it's just noise. But if you play around with operator C level, it can create a different sound. So it goes from noise to laser. And then using the LFO, I play with the pitch of operator B and D, and I think the filter does not do anything here, so we can deactivate it. And if you mix it back to the track, don't necessarily hear it, but it is there creating lots of width. Alright, we have this riser that is super simple. It's just a sine with the noise. As you can see, a sine with the noise with the bandpass filter. And this LFO moves only the pitch and the filter cutoff. And in the FX, I have some stereo informations, distortion, compressor, and the reverb. So super simple riser. The second one is again not really complicated, a little chaotic arrangement of squares. So we have LFO2 to create the wobbleness and LFO2 for the rising effect. On cut off the master tune and the flanger that creates a sweepy sound. Yeah, so besides the equalizer and the compressor, this is a very basic stuff, but how they add together, I think it is crazy good. Right, so grab this project from my Patreon below and click here for my academy if you want to learn more about music production. See you guys next time. Peace.